Conjuring Devil Made Me Do It is the third addition to the Conjuring series. It is based on the trial of Aunt Cheyenne Johnson, which took place in 1981. The movie came out in 2021, and people didn't like it as much as compared to the first two movies. We also made videos about the real story behind the first two Conjuring movies. You can watch it after this. Links are in the description. So in this video, we're going to talk about the real story behind Conjuring Devil Made Me Do It. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can reach our 10K subscribers goal before the end of the year. On February 16th, 1981, Aunt Cheyenne Johnson stabbed his landlord Alan Bono to death with a 5-inch pocket knife, committing the first murder ever recorded in the 193-year history of Brookfield. Johnson was found 2 miles down the road, taken to prison, and held under $125,000 bail. But what actually happened on that day? Johnson called in sick to work, but instead of staying home, he went to join his girlfriend at work, Debbie Glatzel. By this time, she was employed at Bono's kennel, and the couple were living in one of Bono's rental apartments. Later that day, Bono took Johnson, Debbie, and a couple of other workers out for lunch at the local pub. When they all returned to Bono's apartment later that day, Debbie went to buy Bono some pizza in an effort to sober him up. The court heard at the time that when Debbie returned, there was a palpable tension between Johnson and Bono as the two fought over a broken television set. Debbie convinced everyone to leave, but Johnson turned back to the apartment. Debbie put herself between Bono and Johnson. A flurry of activity followed, she said, and she recalled Johnson growling like an animal while something shiny flashed in the air. All of a sudden, it just stopped, she said, and Johnson walked into some nearby woods, staring straight ahead. Bono, at that point, collapsed to the ground, face first. Not far from him was the knife, with the 5-inch blade that Johnson always carried. There were 4 or 5 tremendous wounds, according to Johnson's lawyer, including one that extended from the stomach to the base of the heart. He died a few hours later. After his arrest, Aunt Johnson made an incredible claim: "The devil made me do it." Aided by 2 paranormal investigators, the 19-year-old's attorneys presented their client's claim of demonic possession as a potential defense for his murder of Bono. It was the first time in history that a defense like this one was used in an American courtroom. But why did Johnson use this as his defense? A year before Bono's murder, in the summer of 1980, Debbie's brother David claimed that he'd repeatedly encountered an old man who would taunt him. At first, Johnson and Glatzel thought David was just trying to get out of doing chores and dismissed the story entirely. Nonetheless, the encounters continued, growing both more frequent and more violent. David would wake up crying hysterically, describing visions of a man with big black eyes, a thin face with animal features and jagged teeth. Before long, the family asked a priest from a church nearby to bless their home to no avail. So they hoped that paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren could lend a hand. He would kick, bite, spit, swear terrible words, David's family members said of his possession. He experienced strangling attempts by invisible hands, which he tried to pull from his neck. Aunt Johnson stayed with the family to help however he could. But disturbingly, the child's nightly terrors began to seep into the daytime as well. David described seeing an old man with a white beard, dressed in a flannel shirt and jeans. And as the child's visions continued, suspicious noises began emanating from the attic. Meanwhile, David started hissing, having seizures, and speaking in strange voices while quoting John Milton's Paradise Lost and the Bible. Reviewing the case, the Warrens concluded that this was clearly a case of demonic possession. Warrens claimed that over the course of 3 subsequent exorcisms oversaw by priests, David levitated, cursed, and even stopped breathing. Perhaps even more astonishingly, David allegedly predicted the murder that Aunt Cheyenne Johnson would eventually commit. The Conjuring 3 starts from this exorcism. By October 1980, Aunt Johnson started taunting the demonic presence, telling it to stop bothering his fiancé's brother. "Take me on, leave my little buddy alone," he cried. And the devil heard him. A year after this, Johnson murdered Bono. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, differs greatly from real-life events.
She was here! She was in our house!
With a fictionalized account of them investigating the supposed demonic possession of Johnson and David Glatzel previously, it ends up involving a Satanist known only as the Occultist, who is carrying out a curse that saw her target 2 girls in Danvers, Massachusetts. And, during the movie's final act, Ed Warren is also targeted to stop Lorraine from stopping the curse. During this time, the Occultist is also continuing to target Johnson in prison, with Debbie and David helping to protect him. This part of the movie was all made up, and it didn't happen in the real case. After serving about 5 years in prison, Johnson was released in 1986. He married his fiancée Debbie while he was still behind bars, and as of 2014, they were still together. Johnson and Debbie had 2 children. Although they lived life largely under the radar, Debbie passed away recently. The Warrens stuck to their story that the devil was involved in Bono's murder. That is the end of the video. Please like and subscribe, and get us to 10K subscribers before the end of the year. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.